Good evening, all. Happy Tuesday. I say it every week, and it's so genuine when I say it. Tuesdays are my favorite day of the week. I enjoy coming every week and giving you information that's super beneficial with amazing guests, as always. Last week, we celebrated Women's History Month, so we are staying on that topic. We are celebrating women and the amazing things that women are doing. It's awesome to get a month where people just celebrate us and they look at us and they're like, wow, she's awesome. But I love that I'm able to bring on people personally and hear their experiences, what they're dealing with, what they're going through, or even highlight them for the amazing work and artistry that they're doing. Last week, we highlighted amazing women. Evelyn Ramos was on as the only Latina assistant dean at LaSalle University. We had Ellie Maldonado in Lancaster, who is doing great things as a nurse over there in the hospital and working through COVID. And they were both amazing, amazing guests. They gave us such great and quality information. It was a super, super awesome night. We had so much fun. And I love, 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 like I said, to highlight women. So we're going to keep on with the same tema. Tonight, we're going to celebrate women because we are still in the month of women's history. Before we get into today's guest, I want to remind folks, if you are dealing with any form of domestic violence, if you know of a loved one, a neighbor, a friend, someone that you care of, or even yourself who is dealing with domestic violence, reach out to the hotline. It's scrolling across the bottom of the screen as per always, 1-800-799-7233. You can reach us on all social media platforms. You can reach us online at www.loveshouldnothurt.com. Today's guest is an amazing young lady. I use that word a lot. It's like my favorite word, but I think that it encompasses so much about people that come on and just the different experiences. Tonight's guest is a very beautiful young lady. Her name is Ashley Carino. I met her by accident a few years ago. I've worked with her cousin. I've come in contact with her in a lot of different forms, and I've seen the amazing person that she is and woman. I was able and just genuinely touched by her book. We'll talk about that later. It's on Amazon and you can get it. Today, we're going with, I stated, the same topic, Women's History Month. So instead of always talking about domestic violence, we want to bring to you other things that are just interesting or educational. So tonight, we're going to be talking about postpartum psychosis and a vast number of other things that she brings to you. She speaks to people. She has different conversations with folks. But the most important right now, she's writing a lot of mental health articles that are beneficial to so many women who do not know this subject well. It's a super important topic that I think that many women, especially those who have had children recently or are pregnant, should know of. So I want to bring on today's guest. She's gorgeous. She's young. She's amazing. Ashley Carino, welcome to our show tonight.
Thank you.
How
Thanks,
are
Christina.
you? You're
I'm
welcome. Are you
good.
excited? Tell the crowd a little bit about who you are. Explain who Ashley Carino is.
I am so excited. So I am a mother of two, a wife, and I am also a service coordinator for a health insurance agency. I'm a writer, and an advocate for women who suffer from postpartum depression. So I've been doing this for almost 10 years now, just advocating and talking about mental health. So it's a real passion of mine.
Right. So that's awesome. So postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis are two very different things, right? So
Yes.
as per every show, I always research, right? And I look in advance and I research postpartum depression because you want to know specifically how women get it, what they feel, all of the above, right? But I most importantly research postpartum psychosis because that was what was in your book. And it was super interesting to me in general to read it because it's something that I've never heard of. I've always heard of postpartum depression. I was blessed that after I had my daughter, I did not experience that. I felt fine. I felt good. I think for like 5 minutes after I had her, I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? But after that, like, I totally loved her. I wanted her all over me. I didn't want to let her go. My mother kept telling me I was going to spoil her. Like, no experience of that. So before we get into each one specifically, tell me what the differences are in depression and psychosis.
So with depression, one in every four mothers would get postpartum depression, and that happens within a stem of 3 weeks of having the baby is when you can start getting it starts off as baby blues, but then it becomes more severe. um you get really sad. You can either get super attached to the baby or detached to the baby.
Okay.
You get thoughts of you could get suicidal thoughts, anxiety. It's just almost like so many, like anxiety, depression, kind of like in one
In
when it
one.
comes to postpartum depression. And lack of sleep and eating
Yeah,
are big contributor factors
I read that.
to postpartum. And then so that's postpartum depression. Now
Mhm.
postpartum psychosis is more of like you've had postpartum depression for a long, let's say 3 months, 3 or 4 months now, and you then get into a state of paranoia, and you really, really are not sleeping, eating well.
Yeah.
And it's more severe. You can get like kind of like some hallucinating thoughts, and just really, really paranoid. So that's the difference between depression and the psychosis. Yeah, those two.
Okay.
Mhm.
So, what made you so passionate about this topic? I know, I speak about domestic violence because I lived it and it was a part of my life. It's what I lived with every day. What made you so passionate about this topic?
I It made me so passionate because it was the worst experience of my life.
So,
Like,
you experienced it.
yes, I experienced it. Experienced postpartum psychosis.
Okay.
I just, and it stems like it starts before you even have the baby, and that's something that people really don't. A lot of people don't understand or realize.
Mhm.
I just started feeling like sad, worrisome, like, am I gonna be good at this? This
Mhm.
is new to me. And kind of culturally, I don't want to speak for all women, but we have this sense of pride of like, I'm gonna have a baby, so I have to do X, Y, Z, and I have to be a provider. I have to do so much all in one. So I had prenatal depression, and then it went to postpartum depression, and then it became postpartum psychosis. So that's the three stages of this not of like of the illness itself. And going through that experience, I was only like 21 years old, and I was going to school full time.
Mhm.
I was working a
Mhm.
part time. I had so much on my plate, and I had felt like this need to have to take care of everything all the time.
Yeah.
And that experience, I ended up being hospitalized and everything. I did see a psychiatrist and a therapist. And so all of the experience, I just remember thinking to myself, like, oh my God, like this is all happening to me. And I don't want this to happen to other women.
Yeah.
Like that was the thought that went into my mind. Like, this is horrible. I wouldn't even wish this on my worst enemy.
Yeah.
Like I like that's just one of the thoughts that came over my head. And then I had like this feeling of hope that one day I'm gonna be okay, number one.
Mhm.
And number two, I'm gonna be able to help other people and
Yeah.
help other moms going through this. I'm getting chills just talking about it.
Mhm.
Like I just like in my mind, I just had this feeling of like this is where I'm at right now, but one day, like my story's I'm gonna put this story out there, and I'm gonna
Right.
be able to help other women too who are going through this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes us similar, and something that has always drawn me to you because you're so passionate when you speak and so passionate about what you've been through, and you're so open and willing to share that to be able to help people, to help women. As I stated, I had no idea what postpartum psychosis was, and your cousin is actually watching. And when she told me to read your book and I read it, I was like, wow, I never heard of that before. I have no idea what that was. And it's scary. Like it sounds scary. When I did the research and I was looking it up, I was like, wow, that's crazy. And why I say we're similar is because I took my experience with domestic violence, and it was such a terrible time in my life. And you do not always get the support that you need when you're going through
Yeah.
situations like that. Sometimes people believe, if she stayed, she loved it, or she appreciated, or you made a mountain out of a molehill, and they always think that something that you go through, everybody on the outside, to them it seems like, oh, it's no big deal. She lived through it. She'll be okay, type of thing. But we both have decided, no, it wasn't a little thing that we blew up. This
Right.
is reality.
Absolutely.
This is what people deal with. It was difficult. I overcame it. But now, because I overcame it, I want to help other people. So I think what you're doing is phenomenal. So how did you know, like you said there was different forms, right? So you started off primarily before you had your son. You thought,
Hmm.
oh my God, am I going to be good at this? And then when you had him, it kind of started off as postpartum just depression. But how did you feel the change when it went from depression to psychosis? Like, was it something that you were
No,
like, oh my God?
no, you couldn't tell me that anything was wrong because as this was happening, I was going to school for psychology. I was, working, and I thought to myself, like, oh no, I'm studying psychology. Like, I'm doing what I have to do. Like, I'm okay. And also, there's a lot of stigma, within the Latin culture of,
Yes.
oh, what, like, you're not gonna be able to take care of your baby, or like, are you crazy? Like, the whole stigma of around mental health is really not healthy. And so that was another fear of mine, that if I say I'm stressed out, which really I was stressed out,
Mhm.
people are gonna look at me like, oh, well, you can't handle this. And the family that I was in at that time, the relationship, stuff like that, was really like, I felt like I wasn't even worthy to be around them. Like, I was just like, I felt like I was treated like a surrogate, to be honest. But that's another thing. But it was just not a good experience. And I think that in my mind, I didn't realize it until I had someone tell me, Ashley, like, you're not acting like your normal self. You're like, like, I needed kind of like that conversation, and to speak to someone, or sleep. I needed sleep. I needed to eat, like basic things of self-care, in order to realize, oh crap, like, I wasn't doing good. I was just crashing. It's almost like a car,
Mhm.
when you run out of gas. You're driving and
Right,
you run
right,
out of
right.
gas, and in my mind, I'm thinking that I can still go even though the
Yeah,
car has no gas. Like,
yeah.
that's kind of what it was like for me. And I lost so much weight. um I was just not, I wasn't eating right, sleeping right. I had this thing of like a fear of I just wanting to be with my son and wanting to just be left alone with my baby. You know
Yes.
what I mean? At that time,
Absolutely.
like, I just, leave me alone, let me be with my baby, and just leave me alone. Yeah, so it was really traumatic for me.
So when did you realize that it was at that point? Did you seek some sort of help? Did you get therapy? Like, what
Yeah.
kind of intervention happened that made you say, "Oh my God, I'm really going through something serious"?
Right. So obviously my mother, like, having a conversation with my mom, and just family in general, being there to support me and help me, and to go and see a therapist, to see a psychiatrist, that definitely contributed a lot. And being open to that, being, understanding that, we crash, we're human.
Yeah.
I never forget, my cousin, she's like, you're human, like, you're not a robot. Like,
Yeah.
you're gonna crash, you're gonna need to take care of yourself. And just having that kind of support of someone tell you. And another thing, I never forget, a psychiatrist in a hospital, she told me that, you know you're a mother, and we all go through different, stages. And you also, like, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything.
Right,
And
right.
my grandmother also told me that too, because I just wanted to continue working even though I was going through so much. And my grandma was like, no, like, if you don't have your health, like, you don't have
Yeah.
anything.
You're not good for anyone.
You need to take care of yourself. You need to, go to the doctors and and I was just doing too much.
Yeah. I think that's a part of just not accepting that there's actually something wrong and figuring we all want to
Denial. Hmm.
exactly, and we all want to be that strong Latina, right? We want to be the one that's like, I can do this, I got it, I'm fine, está bien, I don't need any help, déjame, I'm gonna be good. Just give me my baby,
Yeah.
I'll take care of my baby, I'll be fine. Todo el mundo, déjame quieta, I'm okay. But everybody has that moment where it's like, no, nena, tú no estás bien. Like, you need to stop, you can't do this
Mhm.
on your own. It's time to get it. I saw everything you're saying. I'm like, wow, that's exactly what I read. Like everything I
Yeah.
read said like the person needs more sleep. They're not eating enough. That's everything that you're saying. So it's crazy like that you went through this and it's so severe and people don't realize it. And that's why
Yeah.
when I thought of today and I said, okay, we're celebrating Women's Month. I know who's coming on next week. I know what we did last week. And I remember having a conversation with you at the gala, at the Monet Gala,
Yeah.
and you had said, I'd like to come on, and I was like, see, Ashley, she's a good one, because you know what? I think it's important not only to support one another as women. I'm huge with women empowerment, but also people need to know important topics, especially like this. As much as they need to know about domestic violence, postpartum psychosis, nobody knows about. Like,
Yeah.
seriously, unless you've lived it, you have no idea. And it's so scary. Like, I read how there was a trial. I highlighted it. There was a trial held for Andrea Yates.
Yes.
Yes, and she had postpartum psychosis, and I was
Yes.
like,
There's a lot of different because I definitely included some of it in the book, and Yates, a lot of different names, moms that end up either, suicide, they committed suicide from having postpartum psychosis, or they ended up, harming their baby. Because like I said, it either you feel like a protection of like, don't touch my baby and I need to be with my baby,
yeah, or you don't.
or of I don't like so it could go either way, and
Either
that's
way,
what you don't want it to get to that severe stage. It's just not a healthy stage. With me, I was more like protective, like I wanted to
yeah.
be my baby.
I also think it's important that we spoke about it too, because not just women watch this show, but men watch as well. And I always get a lot of feedback from women and men. After the show, every single week, I get inbox messages, text messages, and people give feedback, comments on different things, but men write as well. And I think it's important
Very
because
important.
when we have children, um, and I don't want to get into your past because we don't have to talk about that. But in general, when a woman has a child, they have a partner, and at no fault of their own, in my opinion, and no fault of anybody's, they don't know what's going on. They have no idea what that is either. So it's important for you to educate people, because men that are watching, like, listen, a woman can have a child and know she's not being chunga. Like, something can definitely be wrong.
Yeah.
Nobody realizes the imbalance in us when we
Right, because
have a child.
there's so many hormonal imbalances happening once after you have a baby. So many changes are. This is something new, and you can't tell me, okay, second time around, like the doctors told me I had a 90% chance of it running if I had a second baby. So like my husband, he was like super supportive, and like the only thing I got like was like baby blues. So I wasn't like, yeah, like I was good, thank God, because yeah, I was prepared.
You were prepared.
But when I was an advocate in the community, that I used to go into women's homes, pregnant moms, and I would sit the dad down as well, and I would talk to him about postpartum depression because it was so important to me. And with mom, I'm like, how are you eating? How are you sleeping? And at night when you have the baby, do you guys have a schedule in mind of who would get up, and are you going to get up? And like, I was so, because I was so passionate about it, and they kind of looked at me like, all of this. Some of the questions wouldn't even be on the survey, on the postpartum depression survey. And I would ask because I just wanted to make sure that
Yeah.
mommy was going to be okay. And
Yeah.
dad as well, because dads can get postpartum depression. Their symptoms are just different from ours.
I
They
didn't even know
become,
that
yeah,
until today. I've read and I'm like, really?
they fathers, they just become more detached. They just kind of have like, this is something brand new happening in their lives. This baby is coming in to the schedule,
Yeah.
and it's throwing them off because they're set on one thing, so
Yeah.
they kind of become a little bit more detached and can get depressed and anxious as well. So their symptoms are just a little bit, if they're different from a mom's.
Yeah. And I think it's so easy to get mixed up in it, because when you have the baby, all of us are tired, right? I did it by myself. I had no one there. So it was like, I'm tired. There's no one here to help me. Like, it's just me. And I didn't go through postpartum. And actually, now that you're saying it, I'm like, damn, maybe I did.
Yeah. So think about it. Just put it in your mind,
Yes.
because I'm telling you, like, don't think that those certain nights of like being sleep deprived, or just stressed out.
Yeah.
It probably was most likely that, and especially if you're doing it all on your own, and you kind of feel this like, oh, well, I don't want to call so and so because I don't want to
Yeah.
bother them. No, don't be that way. Like, if you need the help, you need the help, and if you need so I'm really big on self-care. So that's something I'll always ask the mom in the house. I'll just be like, yeah, so what do you do? What do you do to take care of yourself?
Yeah.
What do you
I
like to do?
I remember having my daughter. My mother stayed with me the first 2 weeks. She did everything. I mean, I would fall asleep. I would wake up. My whole entire apartment was clean. The baby
Oh
had
my
been
God, that's
changed.
awesome.
Everything. She did everything for me for 2 weeks.
Wow.
But I just wanted to be by myself with my daughter. And I appreciated my mom. Like when she left, I was like, oh man, I don't know how good I had it. Like it was such an amazing time while she was there. But while she was there, I didn't realize how much of a support system it was for me. But I thought, like every other woman, we can do this on our own. So when she left, I remember the day that she left, she said to me, Chrissy, this is not going to be easy by yourself. Do you have anybody coming to visit you? Like, are your friends coming over? And I lied to her. And I'm like, yeah, mom, such and such is coming over. The house is not going to be empty. People are going to keep visiting her. Nobody was coming. But I wanted her to be okay with leaving me alone. And the moment she left, I lost my mind because the moment she left, my daughter started to cry. I was trying to feed her. She wouldn't take my breast. And I was like, oh my God. And in
Yeah.
an hour, I was calling her crying. And she's like, but I thought they were coming to see you. I'm like, no, I lied.
Yeah.
And I was by myself. And I mean, I got the swing of things very quickly. I didn't have a choice. It was just me. But like you said, you don't realize it. Like today, after I read articles, I was like, damn, maybe I did have it because I had moments. She was
Yeah.
colicky. So she cried all the time.
The breastfeeding part, it contributes big time because I wasn't able to do it. My breast ended up getting engorged and I had to put ice packs because I didn't want to. Became stressful. And then from that, my partner at the time also making me, like, pressuring me into it, like all of that kind of contributed to it as
Yeah,
well, to that
yeah.
stress of feeling like not good enough because I'm not breastfeeding. You know what I mean? That's
I
not,
felt that too. I felt
yeah, that's like
you
not
feel
good
the
either.
pressure. You feel the
Hmm.
pressure of like, I'm a mother and I can't do this. Even in regular relationships, I've heard like marriages where after they have a baby, there's a lot of chaos in the relationship because they're just like, what you mean you can't? That's what's best for the baby. You can't do it. So
Yeah.
I get it. So let's talk about your articles. Let's talk about your articles because besides your book you did, hecho y dicho. It's already done.
Yeah.
Let's talk about these articles. You do them every month, bi-weekly. What do you do? Let me know.
So listen, so these articles are every week,
Okay.
and I'm thinking about writing every day. Like my husband had to slow me down. He's like, you need to, I love writing. And when I was in college, like those research papers that, what, 10, 15 page research papers we would have to do. I was the girl that actually liked doing that and
Me
liked
too.
researching
Me too.
information and doing that. So he is someone who's always on YouTube and reading different articles and information. That's something my husband's into. And so he told me about Medium. And Medium is where writers go and they write different articles about whatever topic interests them. And he's like, babe, I could totally see you doing this. Like you would like really do that. Like you would
That's
do
awesome.
great. And I started like looking into it and I downloaded the app and after that, like that was it for me. Like I just started writing and just researching information. So far, I literally just started in February and I have 9 articles that I published already. So the last article, well, one of the articles I published was about postpartum depression, which it shares a lot of information as far as like 1 in every 4 mothers and some information about that. And also the last one I just did, it is race and racism among Latinos.
Okay.
That is the last article that I just published, which it took him and I like weeks to do. And I really, really want everybody to read that one because it's so informative.
So
It's
what's the
really,
name
really
of
good.
that one again?
That one is called Race and Racism Among Latinos.
Okay. I have to look it up so I can read it when I get off.
Yeah, no, seriously, like
And
I
where can
haven't
they
even
find this?
posted it yet. Huh?
Where can they find all of your articles?
So on Medium, if you go to A Cruise PDS on Medium, you'll find me. Or if you have the app, you'll find me. I post them on my Facebook,
Okay.
and I have an Instagram too that I promoted on there as well. It's called The Reality of Race and Racism Among Latinos.
Awesome. I will
That's what
do
it's
that.
called. Yeah.
Yeah, give
Um,
feedback.
so yeah, and then I also talk about mental health. I talk about lifestyle, just different topics. Find your why. So yeah, I have like various topics, and every week is a different topic. And like I said, I really enjoy writing. I love it so much. And just researching different information. I'm always willing to share with anyone who is ever interested in also like writing as well. And I'm part of a writers group on Facebook, as well as on Medium as well. So
Awesome, awesome. We are at the 25 mark. So before we get into our half hour, I want to remind folks why we are here and why we are always here. If you or anyone that you are dealing with, love, around, related to, anyone that you believe is dealing with any form of domestic violence, remember to reach out to the number scrolling across the bottom of your screen, 1-800-799-7233. You can reach out to us at Love Shouldn't Hurt at our website, loveshouldnothurt.com. Send us a message. We will respond as soon as we receive the messages. You can reach us at any of our social media platforms. Any of our team members or myself will respond to you within 24 hours. If you need immediate assistance, remember that you can dial 911. You can ask for a pizza. You can call and ask for customer service. A trained individual is on the other end and they will know the correct questions to ask to make sure that they can help you. So before we get into this, anyone that is just watching us, we are talking to Ashley Carino, who is talking to us today about her book and the articles that she writes. She speaks about postpartum psychosis. We are celebrating the month of women's history, and we are highlighting Ashley Carino today as a phenomenal woman within our community, Latina as well. Beautiful, married. She has two gorgeous children. And we're speaking with her today to just highlight her and make sure that we know how amazing she is, because this month we are highlighting phenomenal women. Before we get back into the discussion, I want to highlight two more people so that people can see who we've highlighted for the past week. Last week, if you were watching the show, we highlighted live two people, and we also reminded folks about everyone else we highlighted. So since then, we have highlighted six other women. So we're going to pull up the pictures of those women and tell you why we've highlighted them this week. We highlighted Miss Betty D. If you do not know who Miss Betty D is, throw on that old school tape, throw on the CD, throw on the radio. Betty D is the lead singer of the freestyle sensation, the group Sweet Sensation. So if you know her music, you know who Betty D is. I had the pleasure of working closely with Betty D for our Bomba Live project last year. She is actually our host for this year's Bomba Live. She is a phenomenal artist. She also has her own podcast now with DJ Richie Rich from Connecticut. They're both very well known out there. They're awesome. It's called Gab Fest, so check them out. We also highlighted one other person. Who is that second person? Kamala Harris. If you don't know who that is, then you haven't been watching the media. We, we highlighted Kamala Harris, obviously, because she is our first woman vice president. It is amazing and phenomenal for us to have had our first African American president, but now we have a woman vice president who is also a woman of color. So those are the two we're going to highlight from now. We'll show the other four before the show is over. Ashley. So you're here and we talk about domestic violence, right? So we're going to get back clearly. Oh,
yes.
There it is.
Oh
It's
my God, thank you so
screen.
much. This is so
Our
awesome.
producer found it. Go and look for this
Yes,
article, The Reality of
please.
Race and Racism Among Latinos. There's a
So
difference
good.
between using the terms of Spanish. I didn't see what the last thing was, of Spanish, Hispanic, and Latino. That is a great point. That is actually a conversation that I've had with someone recently who did
Yeah.
not want it. They didn't want to be called Hispanic, and I didn't know why. I'm like, we're Hispanic. They're like, no. Look at your research. You don't want to be called Latino either. And I was like, why?
Yeah.
So I'm definitely going to read that article when we
Yeah,
get
read
off.
it. Read it.
Yes, that's
It's very
awesome.
informative.
Awesome. So we're at our 30 mark. You have gotten some good responses from our audience. I'm glad that people are here giving you support, Ashley. So listen, we're here, right? Always for one reason. We're highlighting you tonight, but there's always a purpose behind our show, and it's about domestic violence. So I don't want to get into any personal information. What I do want to get is your viewpoint. You've watched the show a couple of times. You know what it is that I do. And you have been around a lot of the people who support me. So tell me a little bit about your ideas of domestic violence and what your outlook is on domestic violence.
I think that domestic violence is a very, very important topic. Especially within the last coming weeks, I've been seeing some things on social media that really like hurt me of people that are going through domestic abuse or someone who, passed away It's always been such an important topic to me. I actually, when I worked at Congreso, I was a youth educator. So I used to go from school to school and educate students and people on domestic violence and the signs. And I actually used to answer the domestic violence hotline
Oh, wow.
calls as well. Yeah, I was in that department when I worked at Congreso. So
Awesome. Shout out to
it's
Congreso.
always been, yeah, it's always been so important to me. And I the moment that I seen you were doing it, I just remember like feeling so excited to see like someone to represent
Yeah.
people and talk about it and put it out there and go to the schools. And um I know that it must be rewarding for you as well, getting that feedback from teenage girls
Yeah.
or got boys as well, of like their input and their thoughts on it and everything like that. And I at times I find myself scrolling through certain things where I'm like, I really want to tag Christina on this.
Tag
And so I
away.
would like to
Do it all
ask
the
your
time.
permission if it's
Tag
okay.
away. People
Because
send me articles all day, everything. I love it. I use
yes,
it all the time.
because it'll be good information, or just be like a situation, something that happened.
Yeah.
And I like, I really, no matter what, I always love hearing information about domestic violence and sharing the resources with others. And if I have to go to you or have someone speak to you or me speak to that person myself, which, because I've worked in
You've done it.
that area. I'm not, I love to talk about it, and I'm so happy and glad that you're doing this.
Thank you so much.
Happy for you.
It's a shout out to Doris Acevedo who is watching. She is from Congreso. Woo woo. Shout out to Congreso.
Woo!
We went to high school and college together, Doris and I.
Yes, I love Doris.
But I wish I had a picture and I don't have it. Oh my goodness. But you and your son participated in our 5K.
Oh my gosh, that was so much fun. I still talk about it to this day.
So
I still do.
we
It
even
was
gave
fun.
him a medal for it belonged to someone else, but they didn't show up. So we gave it to him because my boy, like, he did that. Race was long and he did it. And he was like,
He was a little bit too competitive. Like, he was just like, Mom, look at me.
he
He's like,
was
look, I'm
amazing.
on round 10 or something. I'm
He was amazing. I love
tired.
it. I love it. I wish I could put the picture up. I totally forgot and I would have put it up, but that was great. It
Thank you.
I know what you feel when you do the work that you do. Saying that you see somebody doing it and you were happy to see me do it. I love what you do and I can see the passion in what you do because I know what I feel like. I know what it means to me and how much it means to me. There are still so many people who don't agree with what I do. There are so many people who think because I was in these abusive relationships that I'm messed up. And they're like, how are you giving people advice? You're crazy. Something's wrong with you.
Yeah,
Like these
that
are
stigma, that negativity.
right. And I hear it often. And I had a moment recently where it broke me down, but it only broke me down for about a day. I'll give it a day.
Yeah, you shouldn't
I won't say a
never.
minute. It was a day.
Right.
I was really heartbroken over it because I feel such a passion for what I do. And, sometimes people say, oh, well, when they watch, you're probably not helping a lot of people. Like you think you're helping a lot of people, but they don't realize that to me, and I'm sure to you, as long as you help one person, you feel like you've done enough because
Hmm.
that one person may have never gotten the help that they needed. So
Absolutely.
it was beneficial to them. And I lived in this life. And we say all the time that I lived it with the person who was so physically abusive with me, but when you look back at your relationships, you're like, damn, he wasn't the only person who abused me. I had so many people who spoke down to me, verbally abused me, emotionally just broke me as a person. And I've had to come out from that and try
Right.
to live a better lifestyle and try to not allow that to control who I am now. Now, I won't sit up here and say I'm wearing this domestic violence crown and I'm perfect because I'm not. I still have moments that I have to battle myself with seeing my self-worth and knowing, okay, I'm crying for a minute and thinking I'm worthless, and then the next minute saying, no, the hell I'm not. I'm the shit.
Yeah,
You know?
and standing up for yourself and having
Right.
more of a voice. And I noticed that with postpartum depression, and you could agree when it comes to domestic violence.
Mhm.
With me, I noticed that anytime I always would like kind of step away from talking about it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna step away. I'm not gonna talk about it anymore. I'm gonna lay low. I'm not gonna talk about postpartum depression or whatever. And I would get a message from my mom, like, hey, are you still on the you know, talking about postpartum depression? Because I'm actually going through it. And it was almost like my life will always just gravitate right back into it. And that's when I knew, and it's happened multiple times. And probably you had survivors
Yeah.
talk to you like, hey, are you still talking about this? Because I'm going through something, and you're just like, God, this is where I need to be because I happen to keep getting gravitated towards this, and I have to
Right.
continue with my passion. I can't allow it to
Absolutely.
just walk away.
Yeah. I think that's exactly you. You couldn't said it any better. What you're saying is exactly what I experienced 2 weeks ago. For that moment, I was knocked down. And I literally was on the phone with Michael Mai that night and I was crying and I was like, I should just stop doing this. I should stop doing it. And she was like, are you kidding me? Like, you're going to let one person take
Right.
away from what you've done. You have built such a good, like, people follow you. And it's not even about people following me, but like people are actually feeling something from it. They're like, damn, like I needed the help. And now just seeing me, like I was on the phone with people yesterday and I was like, I'm low on the totem pole. And they were like, no, what you're doing is something that's helping people. And it was the same thing. Like that evening, I was just like, I'm done. I can't. Like,
Right.
if this is something that is wrong and people think it's wrong, maybe I should stop. And then I received a message from one of my friends, maybe like a couple days later. Like, listen, someone just reached out to me. They really, really need your help. Here's their number. I need you to call them now. And I'm like, okay, I'm doing something right now, but when I'm done, my mind isn't with it right now. It was the day that I lost it was a year from me losing my grandmother. So my mind just wasn't with it at that moment. And I was like, give me a minute. I need to gather myself. I'm going to call them. In that
Yeah.
same hour, I got two more messages from two different people through Instagram referring to the same person. We really need your help. This person is going through this. And I was like,
Yeah.
different people. And they
Right.
all
Because
called
they know
me.
they identify you with that. And that's kind of how I want things to be, moving forward too for me. Like identify me with this because that's something that I can talk about and I can help you. That's a sign for you to keep going and not stop. Don't let those one or two comments, whoever said what they said, keep you away from following your passion and what you're meant to do. Because even with my book, like, and I'm so happy that you still put it up there.
That's right.
Someone said something negative in regards to me, like, talking about it, or because people, when I had put it up once, and I was just like, well, maybe I should just not.
No.
And then you brought it up again. You brought the book up, and I was just like, wow, this is a sign that
I
maybe I
read
should
it.
continue to talk about it,
That's right.
because it meant a lot to me and it took me such a long time to put together.
Yeah, I
So yeah.
absolutely. I don't even remember what the topic was at the time. I just know that your cousin. So give Lisi a shout out. Big ups to Lisi.
Thank you, Lisi.
She
She's still
really,
on.
she really was like, my cousin wrote a book. You should read it. We were all at work. She told everybody, like she told us, you should read it. And I went online, I purchased it, and I read it. And I think that was almost 2 years ago now, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
That she told me to read it, and I read it. So when you said that you wanted to come on the show, I thought back to, what, I read her book. And it was
Mhm.
interesting then. And then today I was researching like everything with postpartum psychosis. And I was like, this is so important for people to know about. Like, they have to hear this, they have to hear it from her
Yeah.
so that they
Mhm.
can educate themselves because it is a super, super important topic. So, how do your
Thank
kids,
you.
do your kids, your daughter's little. She's so cute. She's little. She's not going to get it. Does your son understand the work do you do? Like, has he ever heard you talk? Does he know?
He understands. He's really, really proud of me. Like I don't like, I have a lot of pride, so I don't kind of
We
like
all do.
talk too much about mommy does this, like, you know what I mean? But he is proud of me and things like that. I just he's awesome. He is so awesome in every way. Like our relationship is awesome, and God has really, really blessed me when it comes to him. I look at him and I'm like, damn, I did that. He's an awesome kid.
Yeah.
Really smart, very articulate. He gets great grades, and I'm just really, really proud of him and my little one.
Oh, well, she's adorable. I follow her. Look, she has her own little Instagram.
She's
She's
a
so
little
cute.
model.
She
The
is.
little outfits and
So
stuff.
here's a question for you. After your first pregnancy, before, I know that you went through it with your first pregnancy. I know that it was terrible. It was a really tough time for you. Were you seriously like terrified to go and have another child? Like when you found out you were pregnant with your daughter, were you scared? Before the
Yes.
doctors even told you that it was a possibility that you would have it again, were you scared?
Yes, that's a conversation I actually had with my husband when we started dating. I remember just letting him know that I wasn't sure that I want to have kids again,
Oh,
and him feeling like hurt, like a kid, and he just felt hurt because he wasn't a dad, and that is something that he would want in the future.
yeah.
Um, and the way he supported me and loved me is what drove me to like I want to be a mom. Like I'm ready to be a mom because I know that this time around he's gonna be there for me. He gave me a voice.
Yeah.
He really motivated me. Like when I like he's a passionate person and so am I. So that's one of the things that like attracted we were attracted to one another about. And he was able, like when it came to anything that I was with the postpartum depression, everything like that, he was like, wow, that's incredible that you went through all of that, like, and you came out through all of that so much stronger. And so he definitely gave me a voice to like speak up more and things like that. And so yeah, I just was able to afterwards be more confident when it came to that topic and talking about that topic and putting it out there. Definitely.
So your husband, prior to you having your daughter, was already vested. He was well vested in knowing what experience you had the first time.
Yes, and this time around, he was like, "Well, you know what? If I noticed the signs, I know to, make sure to talk to the doctor." And then the doctors knew too. So, my prenatal doctor, she was able to know. She actually put me like on a natural sleeping pill during my pregnancy because that's something that I had a history of struggling with.
Yeah,
So she made sure to put me on that, and I was able to sleep well.
good.
He contributed as far as getting up in the middle of the night with the baby. And so it was very different. It was like night and day.
That's awesome.
Being
That's
able
awesome.
to have that support. And that's why now, well, even when I was an advocate for Maternity Care Coalition, that's the
Mhm,
company I used to work for before. That was a really big topic when I would do the home visits, talk to moms,
mhm.
was sleeping and eating. How are you going to make sure you sleep right, you eat right, because not only can you get your depression, especially if you're a mom that already had that, um a
Experience.
person that you have depression, anxiety, a history of it, and it's in your family, there's a chance that you can develop it after having a baby. So yeah.
Wow. So would you ever have any more, or are you done because you had your boy and a girl?
I don't
You don't want any more?
I don't. My husband, like, he does, but he's still not sure either. So I mean, kind of go with the flow right now. I wouldn't mind if it happened.
Right.
I just
But you're not planning.
yeah, it's not like planning like I'm gonna have it.
We're at the 45-minute mark. If you have joined us lastly and you're like, what are they talking about? We are here with Ashley Carino. We are speaking about postpartum psychosis, which is super, super important. If you're thinking, no, she means depression. No, I mean psychosis. It
Psychosis,
is
yeah.
something that people are not aware of, people are not educated on. And we thought that since we are highlighting women this month, it was super important to make sure that she came on. Ashley wrote a book. Go to Amazon and look for her. She is super humble about it, but go read the book. Super informative. She didn't even want to talk about it, people. There it is. Ashley Carino, VA, Her
Yes,
Resilience, the Struggle of Overcoming. Go and buy the book. She is
yes,
super, super
please.
humble about it, but go support her. She's amazing. What she is doing now is just awesome. She is another amazing and phenomenal Latina who is out there, who is speaking for women who can't speak, who don't want to speak about the things that they go through. So please, please, please go out, read the book, order it, get it. Also, she spoke about the articles that she is writing on Medium. Download the app, Look her up, read her article, support her. That is her latest, The Reality of Race and
Yay!
Racism Among Latinos. Check Ashley Carino out because she is awesome.
Thank you so
You're
much. Thank
welcome.
you.
You received one last comment from Rafael Collazo, my homie, my brother, my counterpart. He says we need to get Ashley on Clubhouse to interview her on book. Huge subject for women. Super, super huge subject for
Awesome.
women. Women do not realize it until they're going through it. It's something that's super scary. And
Absolutely.
like I said, I researched it and it was just phenomenal for me. Ashley, this is that moment I spoke of at the beginning. I am going to leave you on the screen by yourself. We have only 15 minutes left, but I want to give you the opportunity to give us some thoughts on not only postpartum psychosis, postpartum depression, the mental health aspect of what it is that you do, but also give us your outlook on domestic violence, whatever it is. This is your time to shine, babe.
Thank you. Hi guys. Thank you so much, Christina, for having me. It was so sweet of you to just feature so much of my information and my articles. Postpartum depression is very real. There is a lot of stigma. Some of, even within our families, we have this fear of saying, hey, I'm not doing okay. And I pride myself in, at first, when I had postpartum depression, psychosis, I had a fear of saying, hey, I'm not doing well. I was in denial. Like I was in denial, but it happens. And in my articles, I talk about it. I talk about, one of the articles is 7 things not to say to a depressed person, because you may be coming from a good place and telling someone, think positive, everything's going to be okay. Someone who's going through depression, they don't wake up and say, I'm going to be negative today. It's just something that it's physical, believe it or not. Depression to me is almost like physical. It's really, really hard to deal with. Um, and yeah, and so the articles touch on that. It talks about anxiety. I have an article on anxiety while quarantine. We just went through the pandemic of COVID-19. Rosa De Lauro, she's from the House of Representatives. She just passed on she's requesting for a bill of maternal mental health hotline of $2 million in screenings for mother who suffering from postpartum depression. She's trying to get that passed by the Senate. So I'm praying that something like that does happen, because that would be awesome for any women who suffer from anxiety, depression after having a baby. But yeah, that's this pandemic, the postpartum depression rate and the postpartum psychosis rate has increased tremendously. Mental health in general has increased tremendously because a lot of individuals were quarantined, and end up having COVID-19. There's also individuals who have lost family members due to COVID-19. So, mental health is a huge important topic right now, and I'm hoping that this bill actually does pass. I actually had it here on my screen. I wanted to read it, but maybe I could read it another time. But yes, I'm hoping that that does pass. That the government, they'll contribute money for that cause. And yeah, that's basically what I want to say. It's an important subject. Don't feel ashamed. I'm here. You can follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is Ashley M. Carino. And you'll see her chance on the top. So that is my Instagram page. My Facebook is Ashley Carino. And so, yeah, like, you can definitely follow me, message me. If you know anyone, a relative or a family member who may have gone through postpartum depression or any kind of maternal mental illness or anything like that, please feel free to share my information with them as well. And yeah, thank you so much.
So awesome. What is it you wanted to read? What did you want to read?
So my mom just sent me this the other day.
You can read it. The forum is yours, my love. Do what you have to do. Read it.
Yes, it is from Congress of the United States House of Representatives, Rosa De Lauro. She is asking for education, a bill for fiscal year, I'm sorry, increasing funding for health resources and services administrators for maternal mental health hotline by $2 million, and the screening and treatment of maternal depression related to behavioral disorders program for states by $5 million, And then she goes into 1 in 7 women experience postpartum depression, and 1 in 5 women face some kind of maternal mental health concerns. Pregnancy and postpartum period are vulnerable times. And basically, during the COVID-19 pandemic, it has increased mental health conditions have increased a lot in pregnant women.
Yeah.
So I am really hoping that Congress and they can approve that, because that would be amazing.
Well, that's why I wanted you to say it, girl, because important people are watching. Rafael Collazo, do something about it. You up there, brother.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
We need to say these things. We need to verbalize them. We need to put them out there, because putting them out there and putting them at the front line for people to hear, look at that. Rafael Collazo says we can work on that issue with federal appropriations lobbying.
Oh my God,
You
that'd be awesome.
you have to put it out there, because if you don't put it out, I always say speak it to life. If you put it out there and you say it's going to happen, it'll happen. And that's why I said read what you were going to read, because not only not only is it important for everybody that is watching to hear this information, but it's super important for people to realize the importance of these topics. We had a discussion a few months ago, and we spoke about politics and domestic violence, and we spoke about it then. Rafael was on with Ketsi Losada, and we were talking about, legislate and all things political, and how more things need to happen within legislate and in all types of policies and forums around domestic violence, and your subject as well, because these are topics people do not think are important. People are talking about money, the stimulus check, who's our president, who's this and that, but the real life issues we don't talk about. We don't talk about things that are happening every day. The pandemic, we were locked in our homes and people were being abused. Domestic violence was on the rise.
Yes.
Because of being there. As Nancy said, be that voice for others. That is why I am here every week. And that is why we had you here tonight, because I think what you're doing is amazing. You're
Thank you. I
awesome.
appreciate it. I
You're
appreciate it so
welcome.
much. And I
You're
want to
welcome.
be involved moving forward. Anything that has to do with this, politically, anything, I would love to be more involved and collaborate with other people. So.
Absolutely. Well, you are Mujercita, besides being beautiful, because I've always seen you and I'm like, she's so beautiful. Besides being beautiful, you are just genuinely a very, very amazing human being. I've spoken to you, and your genuineness kind of just flows through you. They say, a veces you see people and you're like, I don't know. But when I when I saw you, you were just genuinely just a sweet person. And I'm so glad and humbled that you said yes. Thank you for being here tonight. It's been awesome. We have
Yes, thank you for having me. I
great
appreciate
feedback.
it.
You're welcome. Ray is going to send you to the back. I'm going to give my closing thoughts, and then I'll see you to say goodbye on our screen.
Okay.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. I think today was such a phenomenal, phenomenal episode. I hope that women and men alike who were watching have learned important information, especially on postpartum psychosis. It is something that not much of us speak about, but it's something that is very, very terrifying for women, especially when they're first-time moms and they're dealing with that form of postpartum. If you didn't learn anything, listen. Make sure that when it ends, you go back and you rewind and you see what we were talking about, because today gave so much great information. Ashley Carino has lived such a phenomenal, phenomenal journey since then. She's now a mother. She's now a wife, a mother for the second time to a beautiful little girl. She's gotten past the postpartum psychosis, but it is something that it deeply affected her during that time. And as I researched tonight, even before today's show, I thought to myself, wow. It is amazing that women have overcome it. As she stated, there are women who have gone through it and not overcome it. Women have committed suicide due to this. Women have hurt their children, unfortunately, killed their children because of this. So it is a very, very important topic. We speak about domestic violence and how it is something we should put out there into the world and let people know and educate them. Well, tonight's topic was something that I believe blew me away when I heard about it and when I read her book. So please, please, please make sure you check out her book on Amazon. Make sure you look and log into Medium, look for her articles, find her on social media, Ashley Carino, look her up and support her. Before we close out the show tonight, I want to remind folks of the other people that we celebrated the past 4 days. We have 4 more people, and I'll explain why we celebrated those folks. Our first person up Jessie Blanco, she is from the Lancaster area. If you are familiar with Jessie Blanco, you would know that she was our host for our third Love Shouldn't Hurt filming in Lancaster. She is a survivor as well of domestic violence. You can find her on the radio. She is La Chica Rumba over in Lancaster, and she is another phenomenal Latina. Next person up. Lucy Bustamante. She is another awesome Latina, Cubana at that. She highlighted me last week on Telemundo. She was able to tell my story, but she is paving ways in publications. She is in the media. She is on NBC 10. She is an anchor for NBC 10, and she also does surprise stories on Telemundo. So we highlighted Lucy this week. We have two more people, and who were those amazing folks? Mariska Hagerty, if you know me, you know me well. You know that I love me some Law and Order SVU. What you may not know about who she is on TV, Olivia Benson, Miss Mariska Hagerty has a foundation called the Joyful Heart Foundation. Her foundation solely supports women and men who are dealing with sexual abuse, child abuse, and domestic violence. The crazy thing behind that is she worked on the show for many years, and women started to write to her. They sent her letters often talking about domestic abuse, sexual assault, and she thought when she received those letters, I don't know about this. This is just who I play on TV. She decided to step into her own being and become someone who ran an organization who does speak about these things. So she's doing great things. And finally, who is our last person? Ketsi Losada. If you don't know her, then you are not an avid person in Philadelphia who knows about politics in the city. Ketsi Losada worked for Maria Quiñones Sanchez for 12 years in the political spectrum. She now is is one of the vice presidents at Esperanza. She's doing big things. Ketsi is a super follower and supporter from day one of Love Shouldn't Hurt, and she's another phenomenal Latina who's doing great things in our community. We will continue to highlight phenomenal women for the remainder of the month. Remember that next week, woo! I'm super excited talking about Law and Order SVU. We will have April Hernandez Castillo on. She is the author of a brand new book called Becoming Me that speaks about her experience with intimate partner violence. She was on Law and Order SVU as well. She was Detective Amaro's sister. She was also in The Freedom Writers. She played Maria. She was the feisty Hispanic girl in that movie. And let me tell you, if you never saw Freedom Writers, go back and look her up. She will be on our show next week to talk about domestic violence and intimate partner violence. And my co-host will be Amanda Peguero, our licensed professional counselor, who will come to give us our feedback, as always, in a therapeutic sense. You guys are amazing. I love you for always being here, for always supporting us. Today was a great show. Let's bring Ashley back so we can say goodbye to our audience. Ashley!
Hey.
Thank you so much again. 100%.
Yes,
I'll
thank
see you,
you. Thank you for
mujer.
having me. This is so much fun.
You're welcome.
Love it.
Listen, come back anytime you want. We're here every Tuesday.
Yeah, I love watching the videos and everything, and I appreciate you having me here. This is so much fun. When I got the message that it was gonna be like tonight, I was like, oh yeah, I like instead of like yeah, instead of like, a month from now or something, I got really excited. So
Yes,
yes,
well,
thank you.
definitely. You're welcome. We wanted to make sure that we highlighted amazing people doing awesome things in our community. And I thought, why not highlight her? It's an important topic and you're doing really super important things. So thank you again for being here. We had great conversation and it was a fun time. To everyone that was watching, thank you for being here and supporting us every week. We will be here next Tuesday. Have a good night.
Yes, have a good night. Keep doing what
Good
you're
night,
doing.
everybody.